Hello everybody, my name is TheBlazeJP. I stream and speedrun every Trials game that there is, and today I would like to do a commentary for the first ever Trials speedrun that I did a little over a year and a half ago now. Trials Evolution Gold Edition was the first speedrun I ever did, and recently we've got a new world record for this. It took me a fair few months to perfect it over the past few months, but so we're gonna jump straight into this, and looking forward to doing this commentary for you guys. So this is any percent, and the goal of any percent is to tally your medals up to 235, and of course that's when the game's credits roll and the game technically ends. There's extra stuff after that, but that's what in Trials we call the any percent. There's a lot of skill games in this speedrun, and we're starting off here with a skill game called Inside the Ball, where you're literally riding against the outside of the ball to try and gain momentum. And we're going to bail out here at 70 meters for the silver mode, which is 2 points to start off the run. And as you can see at the end of this skill game, and at the start of this skill game, we use a mechanic called bailout, which you press Y, and you are then able to like fly, or the most thing that we use it for in the speedrun is at the end of certain skill games to immediately bail out and end the event. And what that does is it allows us to quickly end the event, and once we know that we're at a certain distance, we end it to gain the medals for the distance that we have travelled. This is one of my favourite skill games. You pick up the nitro, which is a mechanic in the game, and you try and maneuver as fast as you can through the rings with some subtle stick movements until you reach 25 rings, and you just bail out for 3 points and a quick gold. So this is quite a little interesting skill game as well. On this one you have limited gas, and you need to get as far as you can without using a lot of it. And what you have to do for this one is kind of like short bursts and like try and use as least gas as you possibly can. And what you have to do is you just have to like keep bursting at like key intervals. There's a refill station here, but we're just going to completely miss it and keep going. We don't need to stop. We've got to go fast. So what we're going to do at the end here is just coast a little bit and then bail out once we hit 270, which is the gold threshold, and grab those 3 points. Again, we just bailed out on the skill game because it's not worth the time spent to get a silver or gold. Just grab the bronze and the 1 point quickly there. So here begins the first section of core Trials tracks, and we begin with the worst bike in the game. It's a quite slow bike, but it's quite easy to handle. It's very heavy. The Rattler is, well, for anybody who picks up Trials Evolution Gold or Trials Evo for the 360, it's a very good beginner bike, and you know, you can get used to the core of the game with using the bike. It's very easy to understand and learn from that bike. But it's not a very fast bike, but thankfully we only have to play 3 tracks with this bike. So you know, it's just all about trying to go as fast as you can. This is quite a funny little track here because a lot of stuff is braking behind you, and if you don't go fast enough you actually just fall through the planks. As we progress through the difficulties and unlock the better bikes, you know, I'll be going over the certain techniques and menu navigations and all the tricks and stuff that are in the speedrun. and I'll be going through and explaining some of the more advanced techniques that I showcase that are easy to miss in this speedrun. So this is the first bike that you unlock, and it's the Piranha 250. Usually you have to spend a lot of time going through these tutorials, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a button combination of RB and A, and we're going to cancel each tutorial and just skip through it very fast to unlock the bike. So the bike that we just unlocked is the 250 Piranha, and it's twice as fast as the Rattler, which will allow us to start doing a lot more bike techniques to save time. As you can see, it's more of a streamlined bike than the previous one that you start from a 0% state on this speedrun. It's extremely easy to maneuver, and it's nowhere near as heavy. It's just a little bit more smooth on the driving lines. So you'll notice that in some parts of the driving lines that I'm going through with this bike, if you pay close attention to the controller interface that you see on the screen, you can see that sometimes I let go of the gas. Now what that is it's called coasting, and occasionally to try and get the least amount of air you need, and get your back wheel back down on the ground as fast as you can. It is quite important to let go of the gas at some parts. So a perfect way to show that is a little hump that's coming up here. As you can see, I'm holding down gas, but as soon as I come to this hump, I let go of gas. And what that does is it lets me get back down onto the track and start accelerating as soon as possible. It saves little time saves they all add up in the course of the speedrun. Back to some skill games, and this is a pretty funny little skill game here. This is one of the most unique skill games in the run. It's similar to a lot of the standalone ball control games that you see. But here I'm just going to try and go really fast and skip a lot of the level, clipping off edges, and cutting corners to try and get the most optimal gold route. What I did here in the world record run is very risky, cutting the corners and bouncing off the edge like that. And here is another big corner that you cut. Usually you have to go all the way around that, and I just bounce off the edge of that rectangle and get into the gold parameter. So there are a lot of time saves in that skill game. So you'll notice that I went down in this event, in this section of tracks, I went down to the second track there. And the reason why I did that is because you can be very selective about the tracks that you pick when you're navigating the menus. Because with enough playtime in trials, you'll know what tracks are the shortest, and depending on the bike you have, it's faster to go on the tracks that save the most time in terms of how short they are. So we're going to go back into the skill games here, and we're going to get a quick silver at 50 meters. This is called delivery, and you are carrying bombs behind you. So if you go too fast down the slopes, you will blow up. But we're just going to get past the second hump here and just bail out for a quick gold 50 meters. Now some of you may be wondering why sometimes we take the bronze or the silver or the gold. Basically, it's not worth the time. So I'm just going to pause that for a minute. You see here the skill game. Sometimes you can get lucky and get a big panel of sheet of glass in the rider's neck, and yeah, that causes the bones to be broken quickly. And the goal for that one was actually like 65 bones broken, but I broke like a little over 100 in this run because the glass got wedged between the neck. In this skill game, you are on fire constantly, and you have to try and go as far as you can without slowing down. If you slow down too much, your bike will just blow up. So again, we get to 170 meters, and we already know the threshold for the gold, so we just bail out. But going back to what I was saying about knowing what it's like for bailing out, you know, I like to call it the time to medal reward ratio, and often it's not worth it to get the gold or the silvers because they take too long for each medal. So you know, it's a lot of optimization and knowledge of the skill games. And again, we just did the button combination again there, and we just unlocked the better bike, which is the 450 Evo. Sorry, the Scorpion rather. So the first thing we're going to do with the 450 is we're going to complete the first section on the Crash County side. You'll notice that each track we play has a certain theme, and the theme of this track is loosely based of course, World War II and D-Day, with all the bombs falling. It's quite a cool line. So coming down the side of this bunker, we're going to do a back wheel slide, and blink and you'll miss it, but that actually saves a lot of time. When you add all the little time techniques, and you know, all the little time saves do add up during the speed run, and I'll try and point a few more of them out as we go on with the run. Right here we rotated the bike around 360 degrees. We did that so we didn't hit the pipe, otherwise we would have clipped the bike on the edge of the pipe. It is possible to like skip over some objects by rotating the bike round, because when you are rotating it, your bike in mid-air is in a certain orientation, so it's completely possible to like not impact with some objects and just completely skip over them. So here's another track that shows a bit of the back wheel sliding, and what the back wheel sliding is, it's basically when you ride on one tire and it gives you a little bit of like momentum boost. We call it sliding. You can slide on your back tire or your front tire, and in most cases it just gives you a little bit of boost, and like I said, it's just another one of those little time saves, and which all add up in the course of the run. This is an interesting track. There's a lot of sand dunes on this one. It's basically just sand dune after sand dune after sand dune, but they're on like all sorts of different height variations, and you have to like stretch together some jumps here to actually make it over the last jump. So by catching all of that path right there and jumping straight into that one and then jumping straight into that one, you can completely skip the last section and just go at speed. So here we're going to see another bike technique that saves a little bit of time. At the edge of this ramp, you're going to see the front tire go over the tip of the ramp, and then you brake hard. That is called a wheelie flip. And basically what it does is you brake hard to swing down, and then it just allows you to get back onto the ground and start accelerating quicker and to minimize the air time that you get. And there is lower routes and higher routes in Trials, and what we did there is we bunny hopped onto a higher route to skip over the top of that dune, which is another little time save. Of course, with all the core Trials tracks, we're going for the gold medals, which is 3 points. But in essence, Trials is all about learning a multitude of bike techniques, tricks and time savers, you know, in order to go as fast as you can. So we had a couple more wheelie flips there, and here's going to be another wheelie flip. Again, to try and get back down onto the ground as soon as you can, and a third wheelie flip here with a little rotation. And that was what I did there. Is it allows you to re-grip the ground, and it just it gives you like a smoother acceleration. So in this track, there is a hell of a lot of time savers. Not in every track, we don't actually go for all the time savers in the game. There are a lot of time savers, and it's all about knowing which ones that you should go for. It's better to be consistent and safe than risky and regretful, is the way that I paraphrase it. And I got extremely lucky there. I had to do a last minute save because I was gonna nosedive, and I had to spam X, which is braking hard in midair, to recover. Here you actually slide the entire way up this ramp, which is a huge time saver. You go over the edge of this ramp and gain all the momentum to clear over the top of this box. That is a huge time saver on this level. So again, here is another time saver coming up. What we do is we brake just before the line of this stop sign, you reverse a bit, and then you go straight away, and you literally just go through the wood. You know, take a bit of the wood with you. But yeah, usually you have to wait for about 5 seconds for the elevator to go up, and that is actually a massive time saver on that track. You may notice that there is a ghost in front of me, or behind me at some times. It's actually my offline name, because I played these speedruns offline on Trials Evo and more recently Trials Fusion. We now play those offline. We found a way to do it with a Uplay workaround. Anyway, what the ghost is that represents my best offline time in a speedrun. So that is the best time that I've achieved in a single segment of the speedrun on a track. So with Trials, in addition to the splits that we use with like a timing and splitting program, you also actually have in-track splits, you know, in a sense, which is even more way to, you know, look at your time loss and your time gain. It's just a nice little feature with Trials and the in-game clock. Also, you may have noticed we skipped a track in this section. And again, like I briefly mentioned earlier, the reason why we do that is because the track that we skipped was 50 seconds long. You can see that chapter is only 85% done. We tend to skip the tracks that are longer, and we just go for the tracks that are the shortest. This is one of the fastest skill games in the game, if not the fastest. You are actually able to get a 8-second silver on this skill game. Unfortunately, I messed up a bit there. Usually you're supposed to go over that flipper, so I lost about 5 seconds. But you just get that section of targets and then bail out. Usually it takes about 7 to 8 seconds, which is an extremely fast 2 points tally. On this skill game, you are trying to go uphill, and you're basically just using the throttle control of the bike. So you're hitting the acceleration in bursts. You're going between each platform, bursting up, stopping, bursting up, stopping, and just repeating. It's very tricky, but this is kind of what you have to do to climb extremely high heights. And it's more of an extreme difficulty, that which you just saw. This is a pretty interesting skill game. What we're actually doing here is riding on the edge of the right side of the ball, to the camera of course, and we're reversing to create momentum to go forwards. So you're actually riding on top of a massive steel cage, I guess. And there's a little dip here, which is interesting because there's an explosion coming up right there. Sometimes that explosion can cause a sheet of metal to hit your rider in the head and make you crash right before the gold, which is quite a funny thing, and it does happen from time to time in the speedrun. This is a pretty funny themed skill game here. Instead of the bike accelerating in this skill game, it gives you upward thrust. Yeah, and instead of braking and reversing, it gives you like slight deceleration, and it slows you down. So it's just like what you're basically trying to do is hop between each landing platform to a landing platform, and you try and do that in the fastest time possible. It's quite funny because there's many different ways to mess this skill game up. This is one of these skill games that's much more advanced than the run, and I definitely recommend for anybody who wants to get into speedrunning Trials Evolution Gold to probably bail out on that one and do another track that I skip, because it's not the easiest of skill games. In this skill game, you're actually limited to what you can do, and you can't lean, so the only controls that you have are throttle, brake, and that's pretty much about it. So, you know, it's all about knowing when to speed up and slow down, and I actually made a crucial mistake there. Usually you're supposed to get gold on that, and there is a recovery strat that I can do later on in the run. I'll mention that when I come to it. So that was the first mess up of this world record. And again, you are very limited to what you can do on this skill game as well. This is called cruise control. Basically, your throttle is stuck down, so you're always accelerating. You can do everything else with the bike, but you cannot let go of the gas. Just going to get over this pipe and bail out because it's the gold requirement. As we progress into the medium difficulty of the core Trials tracks, I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about Trials and speedrunning, and how it came to be and the response it's had since being at the previous GDQ event. It was my first event, and I went into it not really knowing much about GDQ events. I've got to be honest, I was a bit nervous with the whole event, but I did learn a lot from it, and it was an awesome event to be around, a variety of different speedrunners. We actually we went in with $3,000 in donation incentives, which at the time I thought was a bit optimistic, but we did reach it. And I'm actually, I don't know the stats exactly, but I'm really happy that I was able to attend that event and help for a really good cause. Here we have a crazy time save where you push forward and you go straight into a nosedive into those pipes, and it gives you like a lift and like a look at the speed. It's just so fast. Unfortunately, we hit one of those humps really slow, but the start of that track was extremely fast. You can actually glitch quite a lot on those pipes, so this is one of the slip-up tracks, if you will, where you can fault, but it's good that I didn't. Of course, this run was a long time in the making. There was a lot of fails before I actually got this run. So from this point onwards, there's going to be a lot of new introduction to this run that you will see of physics objects. Like, you just got bounced there by a massive piston, and that pushed you like kind of halfway across the track. There's a swinging platform here. So there's another physics object there. We call them physics objects, and this is like a loop-de-loop that actually moves and gives you momentum as you come out of it with the speed. I have to try and brake there because I don't want to go on the top way, because you can fault, or you can either not go far enough. So we go the lower route for the consistency strat. No, but going back to Trials speedrunning as a whole, there's only been speedrunners for maybe about 2 years on Trials. And of course, when I say speedrunning, I mean speedrunning with splits and times and categorization. Trials has been around, of course, for a lot longer, and a lot of people within the Trials community, the core Trials community, you know, they think of speedrunning as just playing single player, which is true, but speedrunning the game and creating categories for full game runs and any percent runs has only actually been around for a little bit, you know, short of 2 years now. Here's another physics object here where you've got a little seesaw, and you just basically try and use the weight to tip over the front and get into the tiny bit of plywood. You can easily fault there. Another thing is a moving platform there. And like I mentioned, we will start to see a lot of physics objects coming up in this run. There are a few girders that we have to knock down there to get over, and some logs that are actually they have like buoyancy mechanics added to them at the end of this track. But no, I mean, I personally feel that Trials is a great speedrun. You know, there may not be that many crazy glitches in Trials, but what the runs don't have in that sense is they definitely make up for in like navigation and route planning. You know, and the tricks and the skill sets that, you know, are learned in order to put a good speedrun together for Trials. I also think it's a very, very cool game to race. Of course, there's always been multiplayer for it and stuff, but, you know, I'm speaking more of any percent and, you know, 100%, and you can even use like categories that use like the worst bike in the game or the most fun bike in the game, which is like a 60cc donkey. You can do all sorts of stuff and have really good fun racing with other people in the Trials speedrunning community. There are currently 6 categories over 2 games, which of course are Trials Evo Gold and Trials Fusion. For the PC, there are ways to manipulate save files so you can reset to a 0% on consoles as well, but it's not something that I've had much experience with. I know that you can do it because I've seen a few people do it on Xbox One, so it's definitely something that, you know, if you don't have a PC, you can still do this. It's just that you will have to look a little bit into how to do it. Right there, I had to actually reverse. Now, reversing is something that doesn't happen much, but I knew that if I kept going, I wouldn't have made the gap. So I had to reverse, and I saved the gold. So if I had have kept going and crashed, I would have lost about 30 seconds there, which wouldn't have been a good thing. No, but it's definitely a personal goal of mine to get Trials as a speedrunning community. You know, to start racing each other more often and get more involved with the Speed Demos archive forums, and I think Trials is a very good and fun for those people who do love the series. You know, I'm always encouraging people to get into speedrunning Trials because, you know, I think it's a very fun run for people who do like the motorbike and skill set orientated parts of the speedrun. You know, Trials does have a steep learning curve, and a lot of people that do pick up the game can get very frustrated quickly. But you know, I feel like once you get over those initial rage moments, you can actually start to really enjoy the game in all of its glory. And no, I can't tell you the amount of fun that I've had racing people in the Trials speedrunning community. The Trials franchise as a whole has actually been around for a long time now. It started on Miniclip, which of course was a flash game website with Trials 1. I never really played it myself, but I think I may have like briefly touched it 1 or 2 times in the past. Then they came out with Trials 2 and Trials 2 Second Edition, which was a PC game. which was all keyboard based. I think you could use a controller on it, but I'm not too knowledgeable on Trials 2 because it was before my time with Trials, and that was back in 2008. In 2012, of course, Trials came to the Xbox 360 arcade, or Trials Evolution, and it wasn't until 2013 that it came back on the PC with Trials Evolution Gold. Right here we're going to drop down before these scaffolds and pick up the Nitro. You saw the Nitro briefly in Ring of Flames skill game. As far as I know, this is the only track that you can grab the Nitro on. In a speedrun anyway. I do think there are a few hidden Easter eggs in some of the tracks in the game where you can pick up the Nitro, but I think that's the only track where you can actually utilize the Nitro mechanic pick up in the run. Of course, Trials Evolution Gold Edition it came about of basically merging two games into one. Trials HD from the Xbox Arcade and Trials Evolution from the Xbox Arcade, of course, were games that were never on the PC. So what happened was in 2013, both those games were merged onto the PC in one game, which is Gold Edition. You saw me there playing a HD map. So we're going to skip through all these tutorial menus again by using the same button combination of R, B and A, and we're going to be unlocking the most technical bike in the game, which is the 250 Evo Phoenix. And as you can see, this split that I got here was minus 49 seconds, 0.4, and yeah, no, I surprised myself even when I hit that. I think I was able to save a lot of time from the skill games earlier in the run. Most specifically, the sphere, the ball skill game that you guys saw, where I was controlling the metal ball and navigating with that. Of course, it's only in the past few months that I've added the Ring of Fire skill game with the Nitro mechanic and the Inside the Ball skill game. So I think mastering those two skill games that were never in the run previously have really added to the potential time save of the overall run. This speedrun was of course accepted for SGDQ Just Gone 2014. It was originally going to be run, but then was changed to Trials Fusion. This was my first ever skill game, and to be honest with you, it's definitely if I had to pick a favourite, I would pick this. Mostly just because of the length and depth of all the skill games. There are so many different variety of skill games in this run, on top of the different levels of variety that you get in difficulty. Of course, you with the core Trials tracks, you progress in difficulty as you go, but for the sheer level of skill games and the variety that you get of these skill games, if I had to pick a favourite, it would be Evolution Gold any percent. So we're still progressing through the medium tracks here. The 250 bike that we've unlocked and that we are now using is the most technical bike in the game, which I've already touched on. But it's a bike that is very streamlined. It is very flimsy to get used to. It's extremely bouncy, but it is for the bikes in the game. It is the bike with the most flexibility with what it's able to do. If you master the bike, the 250 Evo itself, you can, you know, start doing tracks and very fast, and some of the driving lines can get extremely technical. Right here, this skill game is quite funny. You have to carry a massive steel ball, the same steel ball that you saw on the sphere skill game earlier. Unfortunately, I did lose about 15 seconds here, and this is my one regret on the world record run. I had to go back there to stop myself from dropping the ball, which was unfortunate. What we're going to do here at the end of this skill game is just literally tip the bike over forward and throw the ball out once you've hit the gold distance required. This skill game is called Mr. Vertigo, and what you have to do is you have to like you have to bail out and then keep swinging and like try and grab each swinging rail with Y. By holding Y, you grab it. Right here, I wasn't able to single swing, and I had to swing back because my legs got stuck. So I had to go back and then, you know, swing forward again. The same with this one. I didn't feel like I was going to make it, so there was maybe another 5 or 7 seconds time loss here. But all in all, that is a very quick gold, and it's a very quick 3 points. This skill game is called Exploding Man, and I guess you can imagine it as the guy's got, it's a ragdoll. It's like thinking about like a ragdoll, and he's just got like an explosive strapped to him that is never ending, and you just keep pressing A, and of course you have to use the direction, and it moves the ragdoll dude around. Ragdoll dude, you know, in the fastest way you can. Of course, this is one of my favourite skill games. When I first started playing Trials, skill games are the first thing that I'd learned. You know, I played them for like 2 or 3 months straight before I even really touched any of the core skill in the game. Like, skill games were my thing for a long time with Trials before I even started speedrunning single player tracks in general. So we're going back to the HD side here, and there's a lot of physics tracks and lines coming up. But it's nice to have the 250 bike unlocked at this point in the speedrun, because it's going to make some of these tracks that little bit faster. So the run that you're watching now, I got a sub 56 on, and it's kind of funny because at one point in time it was dubbed by a couple members in the speedrunning Trials community who are very good themselves. One of them currently has the world record on any percent fusion, and it was said outright back then that it would never be a day where somebody would get a sub 56:30, and this run definitely proved that wrong. But to be fair, in the last few months I have started to experiment and find new strategies and routes to save that extra bit of time, mostly from the skill games, just by adding more skill games to the run. And taking some tracks off that were a little bit longer, like 45 seconds to 50 seconds each. Able to save a lot of time. This is a funny little track. There's loads of little ramps and like wooden pieces just scattered around randomly. It's called Dreamscape. You know, it's a little bit chaotic, just reminds you of like randomness, I guess. Like a dream state. I'm not quite sure what I'm saying, but yeah, it's a funny little track, that one. Of course, the Trials HD back in 2012, which was released in the arcade first. A lot of the tracks from the HD section, the HD warehouse, of course, because Gold is split into Crash County and HD, which is, you know, 2 different games in one. But the HD side is a lot of basically it's just all indoors, and Crash County is all outdoors. With the indoor lines, you get to have a lot of like lines that are basically just plywood, concrete pipes, and rubber tires, big rubber tires, and you see that a lot with the HD lines. You know, sheets of metal, stuff that you'd see in like a warehouse environment. It's but it's how Trials was born on the Xbox arcade for sure. You'll notice in the background there's a variety of signs. There was actually a sign back there that had a picture of a turtle on it. And what that is just like it's a little cue on this track as the difficulties start to get harder. The game creators tend to put in some, I don't know, like visual cues to tell you when to slow down and just little things. Right here is my favourite driving line in the HD side. There's a massive drop coming up, and you can actually jump straight down into it, but like I was mentioning earlier, we don't go for every time saver because that is one of the most trickiest time savers in the game, and this run is more about consistency than it is being risky, for sure. So this track here is quite a tricky track, and you will see that I fault at the start. It does happen from time to time. It's one of the more trickier medium driving lines, mostly because there's a lot of rocks that don't have custom collisions. So they're very jaggedy as you drive across them, and you know it can create easy mistakes unless you're careful. Of course, there's a lot more signs there. And of course, the classic thing with the Trials games and the Trials riders is you always get the moaning and the groaning and the shouting and the falling and the crashing. It's quite humorous sounds coming from the Trials dude. One of the most key things of Trials to consider is the faster you want to go, it means trying to get your, in essence, in the basics, it means trying to get your back wheel down on the ground as fast as you can. The sooner you get your back wheel down, the faster you can start to accelerate. So there is a hell of a lot of emphasis in Trials on the back wheel, and it definitely is prevalent in a lot of the tracks that you see in this featured in the speedrun. You will see me trying to get the back wheel and doing everything I can to get the back wheel down on the ground as fast as possible. So right here we're actually going to the hard track, so we're stepping up the difficulty notch quite a bit. You'll see tracks that have quite steep inclines, tracks that have like very hard and long distances between each objects that you have to bunny hop. A bunny hop is a technique that I'll briefly explain. What you do is as you drop onto an obstacle, or as you ride across a flat plane and then try to make a gap, you do a very quick left movement, and what that does is it makes the rider sit down on the suspension of the back tires where the springs are, and then when you press forward it will release that, and it will give you like a little bit of a momentum push forward and a thrust, and it lets you jump between obstacles quite easily. Right there I tried to do a time saver and it didn't quite pull out. There's a little tiny bunny hop there. There are checkpoints in the game. For the most part you don't use them, but sometimes you can use them as a recovery strat in trial speedruns. If you go too far and you know that you're going to crash and you just hit a checkpoint, you can quickly press B to go back to the checkpoint that you've just literally passed, and you only lose like a split second each time you do that. This track is quite funny because there is a lot of explosives. Yeah, there really is a lot of explosives on this track that you'll just see casually blowing up in the background. You have to ride across the top of a lot of them there really slowly, and the key is not to accelerate at all. And what that will do is it makes it to where you coast across the top and don't set them off. And you'll see right there that you actually push one out the way. That one can be very tricky. You can blow up quite a bit on that, but with enough practice you can, very easily just set it aside and finish the track. This right here is a wheelie flip down again, technique that's seen quite a lot in the harder difficulty lines. We try to do it there, but I did crash. Most Trials speedruns aren't without crashes. Trials Evolution, in my opinion, had more technical driving lines, so in a full game speedrun you are more likely to crash because that added level of difficulty. Right here we're going to be going up a very steep, going to re-grip this ramp and try and going up a very steep part of this, and this is the bunny hops right here. This showcases them really good, left, right, left, and it's a very quick bunny hop, bunny hop, bunny hop to get over that few little gaps right there. And of course there's another one here. I actually make, I have been told that I make this look a lot easier than it actually is. Like I've touched before in this commentary, Trials is a game that does take a while to get used to. If you're picking up Trials for the first time, it's definitely going to take you a while to master it. Right here, I'm bailing out, and the only reason why I went into the skill game for the quick bronze is to make up for the fact that I didn't get that gold on the no lean balance of power skill game earlier in the run. Right here I think I actually messed up. You have to try and go as far as you can on your back tyre and just keep your front tyre off the ground. So you're trying to wheelie as far as you can and not touch your front tyre. Your front tyre has a loose screw and basically just breaks and snaps off. But we've got the gold there. As you can see, we just hit a little bit over 200 medals. So we're coming into the last section of the run now with the hard tracks. So we're back outdoors again in Crash County, and as you can see there's a lot of bunny hops, there's a lot of letting go of the gas, and there's a lot of little flip downs and more advanced techniques that we haven't covered. But there's no way that I would be able to cover every single technique in a voiceover commentary like this. There are a lot of techniques in Trials, and especially from a speedrunning perspective, so many little ones that do take a little while to learn. Here we're going to be pushing forward and getting quite far into this little trolley thing and accelerating as fast as we can. We're going to bounce, and this is a huge time saver, and it saved me like maybe 5 to 6 seconds when I hit this in the world record run. We're going to brake on that little flipper and then push ourselves over that steel beam, wait for the accelerating elevator to go up and then accelerate. And we've got a few little pistons here. This is one of my favourite tracks. It's called Physics Factory, and as you can see, basically the entire line is just physics objects. Of course, as we progress into the last few sections of the hard tracks in the speedrun, you will see that I definitely do fault a little bit more in the end of this run. but that's going to happen with the harder driving lines. A nice little flip down there into a bunny hop off the top of the mound. Little break there and pushing forward and trying to get right on top of the end of this hut. A little bunny hop at the end and going over the finish line. So, as I mentioned before, we're skipping a lot of tracks there for the menu navigation, and being as selective as we can be with the shortest possible tracks and the most optimized route to try and save as much time as we possibly can. This track is called Dam, and as you can see, there's a lot of the dam is overflowing. There's a hell of a lot of stuff breaking around us, which is a pretty cool effect right there. You brake there with your back tyre, you flip around 360 degrees and then bunny hop at the end of that ramp, push forward and just accelerate into the finish line. I actually did that map quite fast for a speedrun. This is an interesting track. You're basically starting at the bottom of the mountain, you're just trying to keep going up and up and up and up until you get to the top of the mountain. Right here, I do a massive time saver by trying to push forward and accelerate with the right grip. As you can see, I went quite far in front of the ghost right there. Unfortunately, I went a little bit too far, and it was a little bit overzealous. So as soon as the ghost went past me, unfortunately I had to brake hard to recover, but I did recover well, and it was a good time nonetheless. As we're nearing the end of the speedrun, I think this is probably a good time to put on the show the chat experience when I got this on Twitch. Right here is a huge time saver. You basically ride with your back tyre. I didn't actually touch my front tyre at all there. And what that allowed me to do is completely skip over that trolley and save maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Because you actually have to wait for the trolley to go down usually, so that was a pretty big time saver. It's an interesting track here. It's like a wood cutting theme. You're trying to like jump over all these saws without hitting them. If you do hit any of them, your bike just instantaneously falls to pieces and you die. In Trials, of course, there's a hell of a lot of ways to die. You can get crushed, you can get launched across the map, you can get sliced into pieces, you can get killed by lasers. The Trials rider has been through a lot in the Trials franchise, and it's pretty funny to see. Again, like I was speaking about before, if you feel like you're not ever going to get an obstacle, you can just literally press B, go down to the previous checkpoint and then keep going for minimal time loss. I knew at this point in the speedrun that there was a world record incoming, and suffice to say, I did start to play a little bit sloppy. My nerves started to play up a little bit, and it was affecting my performance at the end of this run. I knew that I was going to get a world record regardless, and I'm not quite sure why it happened the way it did, but I did lose about 20, maybe 30 seconds on the last split. We had another little crash there. Before SGDQ, we actually had about maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 people that had actually ever done a speedrun before with Trials. And since SGDQ, we've had quite a big upburst in interest, and I think the current the current runner count is somewhere between 27 and 28 runners, and a lot of them are for the most recent game, which is Fusion. Of course, that game has a lot of different stuff in the run as well. You have all sorts of stuff. You have FMX, which isn't featured in Evolution. But you know, this game here is very nostalgic to me. It's definitely, to me, it's the most technical, and it's definitely what I'd consider a little bit harder in certain ways than the most recent Trials. This, of course, is the last track in the speedrun, and as you can see, the chat is probably going to be getting a little bit excited here. This run took me maybe 3 or 4 months to perfect since the last GDQ. I have been relentless though. When I play a game, I like to play a game to the point where, you know, I played it a lot, and I'm very convinced and happy with my skills in the game. I tell you this, I have, in the last 2 years, I've played hardly anything but Trials. I have been very addicted to this game, but, you know, I don't look back at all. It's been a very fun couple of years. And you can see the emotions coming out here, and we're going to see the platinum medals rack up, which is a pretty cool touch at the end of the run. The celebration was quite the awesome thing. And there we have it, guys. That is the current world record for Trials Evolution any percent. I hope you guys enjoyed, as we get a nice little chat reaction here. And just going to let the credits roll. I will also take a very quick mention to the music in Trials Evolution. It's definitely a favourite of mine. I love how chill the music is, and it definitely stretches together the runs, and the intro songs are a personal favourite of mine. I'm not going to try and reenact the raps, but that's it from me, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the speedrun. I'm going to end it with a couple of minutes of my live chat reaction.
World record. Yes! We'll say this. I am kind of annoyed. I lost time. I lost more than... Right, you guys see this, right? So it's plus 19. Believe it or believe it not, if I had a really good last split, I would have got like a 55-20. I lost 40 seconds on the last split. So, yes, new world record. Will I ever go back to get like a 55-20? I don't know. Some of the driving on the last split wasn't great. I'm not gonna lie. Like, some of the driving was questionable. Also, my skill games were floppy. So there is like another 30 plus seconds in this, maybe 40 more seconds with the perfect run. Obviously, I'm not doing each track to world record pace. But I will say this, imagine a tournament in Trials, right? So you've got to do like 25 tracks in a row. Imagine Ultimate Endurance Challenge, or imagine a Trials Fusion tournament. For the longest time, I didn't fault. So I think I must have gone through like maybe 80 tracks without faulting, and that is crazy. That is actually mental when you think about it. So yeah, I'm really happy with that I got a sub 56. Sub 56! At one point in time, Vantia, he said that a sub 57 is not possible, or he said like a sub 56.30 is not possible. I just got a sub 56, so, and I honestly think a sub 55 is technically possible. I had a horrible split. Yeah. Such an awesome run. I'm so happy I finally got it. It means that I can do commentary, it means that I can submit it to the speedrunning forums, and I can also do a tutorial voiceover. So I can't wait to use that, and